We are live. If you have joined us today, I hope you understand this is like a dream come true for me because we're talking to one of my idols today. Have you ever struggled with your finances? Obviously, if you are over the age of 14, the chances are you have. We have all struggled financially at some point. And with me today, I have my idol, one of my favorite people, someone who I admire almost more than anybody else, but especially in the space more than anyone else, Lynnette Khalfani-Cox. She is the money coach. For those of you who grown enough to remember when Oprah had her own show, yes, you've seen her on there. Lynnette is also a New York Times best-selling author. Okay. She is one of the go-tos, like all the brands, all the businesses. Lynnette was like, she is who I aspire to be, both in front of the scenes in business, but also behind the scenes of how she lives her life. She's just an amazing person. I'm going to talk to you about how I met Lynnette, and then we're going to really get into, what it means to bounce back. Lynnette has a brand new book called The Bounce Back. It's all about what happens when you have fallen on any financial challenges, whether if you lost a spouse, lost a job, the economy is down, inflation is high. What does that look like? Because it can't be the end, and it's not. And so I wanted Lynnette to come on today to talk about what can we do to get back on track, taken directly from her new book, The Bounce Back. Okay. And so I'll tell you the story about how I met Lynnette, and then we're going to let her talk. So I met Lynnette. I don't even know what year it was. It had to be at least 15 years ago. I was going to this event in New York. I can't remember who was like hosting the event, but I remember distinctly that what's her name? Soledad O'Brien was speaking, and I was like super excited to meet Soledad O'Brien. But I had been following Lynnette on Twitter when it was called that. I had never seen a Black woman on TV talking about personal finance who looked like me. I was like, oh my God, like that's who I want to be. So I knew Lynnette, but I'd never met her in person. I don't even know if I had a picture of her, maybe a small one, but I had never met her in person. So we go to this event. I'm there. You get a chance to like stand up, like, there's all these people in the audience, and I got to ask Soledad O'Brien a question. And as a result of me asking Soledad a question, Lynnette was like, I'm assuming that's when you were like, oh, that's Tiffany, the budgetista, the girl who follows me on Twitter. That'd be sweating me. So I was like, so after asking the question, we all lined up to take pictures with Soledad. Like I said, I did not recognize Lynnette. Lynnette was standing next to Soledad, and I said, excuse me, miss, can you take a picture of me and Soledad? And I gave Lynnette my camera, and she was the humblest, kindest, was like, sure, took a picture of me and Soledad. And something, I looked at Lynette's face, I was like, wait a minute, please don't tell me that's Lynnette. So I just asked to be my camera woman. And she was the nicest. I was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. By then I was like, forget about Soledad. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love Soledad. But it's like, she don't come to Lynnette. I was like, oh my God. I was so excited. And then she took it even further. She said, how'd you get here? I was like, I was broker than a joke. So I said, the train. And she was like, girl, where do you live? I said, New Jersey. She said, so do I. Do you want to ride home? I was like, is this real life? I said, yes, I would love a ride home. And the best thing that could have ever happened, there was traffic. So she was stuck with me, chewing her ear off in the car. And she poured so much into me. Now, anybody who knows me knows that I get motion sickness. I can't look at my phone. I can't look at anything. I whipped out a notebook and took notes because that's how much Lynnette poured into me. And then on top of that, I'll never forget, Lynnette, you looked at me, you said, have you ever been on TV? And I said, no. You said, do you want to be on TV? I was like, yes. And she was like, I'm going to tell the producer from Pix 11 News, they shouldn't have her on because she was on so much. And she was like, they'll have me back, girl. Like, I'm going to tell her to have you on. I'm like, wait, is this real life? How is this actually happening? And Lynnette told the producer, you should have Tiffany, the budgetista, who even knows who she is, on. And I was so scared. And Lynnette, you told me, don't worry, I'll coach you with what to do. Now, she didn't just coach me. She said, when you walk in the building, you're going to see a round desk. That's the security guard. Make sure you have your ID on you. Make sure you smile and say hello. Then you're going to walk down the hallway to the left. You're going to see there's going to be a makeup artist, but make sure you're basically done, and she'll just touch you up. She's a little sassy, but she's really nice. And so make sure you're nice to her. I mean, Lynnette broke it down. People don't do. I hope you understand. People don't do that. Lynnette, I don't think. I mean, I'm always, always, always telling people like there are some pivotal people in your life that you're going in this direction, and they come in, and as a result, you do this, and you go in this direction. Lynnette is one of those people that changed the trajectory of my life. That kindness, one, exposed me to like what was possible, like in this space, that a woman that I looked like could succeed at the level that she was succeeding on in this space. But then also there was a level of humility and kindness that like someone who was so successful, she didn't have to do that. And I thought I was Lynnette's special little flower till you talk about other people in the financial space. They're like, girl, and Lynnette had did this for me, and another person, and Lynnette did this for me. I was like, dang, Lynnette is just nice to everybody. And she's one of the kindest. We all call her our financial fairy godmother. And what it taught me was I want to show up in the space like she does. So you can thank in large part, if you have met me, if you have thought, oh my gosh, Tiffany's so great or whatever, I am conscious that I want to honor the legacy of Lynnette while she's still here, to show up with as much humility and kindness and openness as possible. And so with that, I introduce you to Lynnette Khalfani-Cox, baby.
That was one heck of an opening, girl. That was a lot. And you nailed it. If I remember correctly, so it was in New York, obviously. Mm-hmm. And I think that might have been a Prudential event, or it was an event where it was at a art or university auditorium type of thing, and Soledad was there too. But yes. Girl, I was happy to take because I love me some Soledad. Okay, so and you don't even want to know. Soledad taught me, because I used to do CNN so many times. Mm-hmm. Soledad taught me some stuff on air. Okay. Soledad, I was like, one day we were in the green room, and I was talking about like, the best look or how to dress right or what. She was like, girl, dresses. She was like, just put on a nice dress. Dresses are so forgiving. They're flattering. It's all one streamlined look. And I was like, she's right. And it's so many times now, I'm just like, let me just put on, it's an all navy blue dress, all black dress, something red, all blue. And it's just easy, So I do try to pay it forward. I do try to, that's my natural instincts and my outlook in life. I live in a world of abundance, and I feel like there's room for everybody. And, and so many times especially in what we do, right? Mm-hmm. People think like, oh my God, I ain't going to put this person on, or I'm not going to make a referral. That's not how it works. It works the opposite. It's like the more you give, the more you're going to get. But also just in the media space, in the business space, when you're sharing and giving, you like create opportunities, yes, for others. But honestly, Tiff, what I did for you was just go like this and let somebody else see the light that was already within you. I just helped them to see your shine a little bit earlier. So you already came to the table with smarts and with passion, with interest, with, being fast on your feet. I could tell, So in our 2+ hours conversation, I was like, oh, okay, So because it is a thing where, you have to be mindful. You're not going to just make a recommendation and say, oh, here, I'm gonna put this person on TV, because, what if they crazy? Okay. What if they, that's wild, right? So no, I had a high degree of confidence in you already, and I was more than happy. And like I said, you've been on picks many times. I've been on picks. It's not stopping, because that's how it is. The media world, they don't want to just have one person, Yes. There's some times when they want their expert and all that. But for the most part, there's space for all of us. And I believe in particular for Black women, we need to stop. I don't need to be a gatekeeper, because I'm not trying to be the only expert out there. I'm trying to see 10, 15 of me, Yes. 250 of me, Yes. But the work that we do, it's required. We need, there's a lot of people out there who have problems and who need help. And we all have our own, sort of ecosystem, our own niches, our own areas of influence. And so just kind of like let everybody shine. That's my philosophy.
Yes. And as a result, it's led you to just pour out in so many ways. So I know you've written a number of books and one of which was a New York Times bestseller. I didn't know that was possible till I met Lynnette. But your newest book, which is behind me and also here, it's a book and a workbook, Bounce Back. It's really all about like what happens when things don't go according to plan. How does one, so maybe we should just take a quick poll. If you have had a financial setback in the last, let's say 6 months, put a 1 in the comments. If you've had a financial setback in the last 6 months, put 1 in the comments. If you had a financial setback in the last year, put a 2 in the comments, And so, yes, put a 1. If you've had financial setbacks in 6 months, somebody put 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. If you have financial setbacks in a year, put a 2 in the comments. Because I want you to see that you're not alone, that financial setbacks, right, are quite normal. It's just part of adulting in some ways. But Lynnette, what are some financial setbacks? And y'all can share in the comments, what are some of, if whatever you feel comfortable sharing, what are some of the financial setbacks that you've experienced? And so what are the typical financial setbacks people are experiencing?
Right. Well, in Bounce Back, I talk about the 10 most common financial challenges that people face. And I call these the dreaded Ds. They all start with the letter D. And they feel dreadful when you go through it. So it's downsizing from a job when you've lost a job, divorce, death of a loved one, disability, disease, natural disasters, and a whole bunch of that climate stuff going on right now, debt of all kinds, student loan debt, credit card debt, mortgage debt, you name it, damaged credit, and then dollar deficits. You see, I'm going with the alliteration theme. Dollar deficits, it really just means I'm broke, I have no cash flow, or I haven't saved enough for my goals or for retirement for something long-term. That's having dollar deficits. And then the last one is discrimination. Discrimination can also, pack a big punch financially and emotionally. So part of the reason that I wanted to write this book and to share with folks about strategies and what you do is that not only have I personally been through 9 of those 10 dreaded Ds and overcome them, but I also know that on average, the typical American is going to face at least one of these every year.
Wow. Every single year?
Every single year. So, researchers at Pew, they did their studies and they basically found 8 out of 10 Americans owe somebody something. So the debt problem alone is just a perennial, issue in this country. The Federal Reserve just came out with their latest numbers just last week, and they were talking about record credit card debt, record auto loans.
I saw that.
Student loans still up there at 1.6 trillion. Mortgage debt is up. Buy now, pay later, and all of these forms of obligation. And so you mentioned my New York Times bestseller. So that was when I wrote Zero Debt: The Ultimate Guide to Financial Freedom. Tiffany, I wrote that book. I first wrote that book in 2004.
Wow.
After I got out of $100,000 in credit card debt alone. I took 3 years. I paid it all off. I never missed a single payment. Then I wrote this book and it just blew up. Everybody wants to know, like, how did you get out of $100,000 in debt and what'd you do to get in it? But what did you do? So I shared all these strategies, right? Now, fast forward, we did the second edition of Zero Debt in 2010. 1920, we did the third edition. We're about to do another for Zero Debt, because over time, unfortunately, the debt problem in America has just gotten worse. It hasn't gotten better. So I know that this is a big issue that a lot of folks, struggle with. So those are some of the common challenges and setbacks, but there's others too. And people can, say their own challenges, of course, because I also say in the realm of disasters, even though I'm talking in the book about natural disasters, hurricanes, tornadoes, floods, wildfires, disasters that are climate related, etc. Let's be honest. Sometimes those disasters are like self-inflicted. You know what I mean? Like some choices we made, some bad decision, something that we go, oh, dang, why did I make that, move? And then later you can look at it and be like, oh, that was just the wrong choice, But overall, those are the primary challenges. And if you've been through any of those, you're definitely not alone.
So, okay. So there's a lot of people in here who are sharing, like they've been through that. I didn't know that. You realize like, wow, that no matter what, almost every adult is going to experience something once a year. So why do you think that we feel so alone? Like it's only us, like no one else. I've made all the mistakes in the world. Like, why do you think? And for those of you asking about Bounce Back the Book, because I see you asking, if you go to bouncebackthebook.com, also the link is always going to be below. That's where you can grab like not only what the attendees are, but what you can do to solve them, which we'll go over some of them. But why do you think people, because you saw how many ones and twos we had in the comments, why do people feel so alone in navigating their D's?
I think it's a couple of reasons. One is that there's a lot of shame and guilt around money issues, right? And so, in fact, financial therapists, a sister, Asia Evans, that I interviewed for the book, and others, talked about, for Black women in particular, the amount of shame and guilt and kind of just negative feelings around money issues. Sometimes we're ashamed of how little we make. Sometimes we're ashamed because we make too much money and we're just like, oh, I don't want to really say, sometimes we're ashamed of our past choices and the decisions that we made, or we just feel like we're not as far along as we should be. Certainly there's a whole, litany of things in terms of comparisons. I think with the advent, of course, of social media, that's a new benchmark for a lot of folks. We used to say, and you're a millennial, Tiffany.
No, girl, I'm an ex. I just barely, I'm 1979. I'm 1979. I missed it by a year or two.
Oh, okay. You missed. Okay. Well, we're both Gen X then. All right. So, but I'm still older than you. Okay. So you know how they used to say keeping up with the Joneses. Oh, people trying to keep up with the Joneses, spending, doing whatever. And keeping up with the Joneses, it used to mean like you would look in your neighborhood, or you would look in, your colleagues on the job, and you would see like, oh, what's the suit they wearing? What's the clothes that, the purse, or what car are they driving up in the lot or whatever, right? And you would kind of benchmark yourself against them, really. That was kind of like keeping up with the Joneses, was your neighbors or your coworkers. Now, again, with social media, and of course, as Madison Avenue continues to market to us and to try to make us want to be consumers and spend. Now we're comparing ourselves to everybody. Like you look on social media, you're seeing somebody, folks be comparing themselves to celebrities,
Girl.
You see them living large, so-called living a bling bling lifestyle. And then they want to have that same lifestyle emulated. Well, it's like, okay, first of all, you're like, oh, I'm going to drop some money. I'm going to buy this purse that she has, or this dress, or whatever. But they got that free, a designer sent it to them free, for free publicity, So we went from like kind of keep up with the Joneses to like trying to keep up with the Kardashians, and you can't live that same lifestyle. Your paper is not that long. You don't have the same kind of, resources, and that's okay. It's not, I'm not saying that you can't even potentially get there if that's your goal. But what I'm saying is don't benchmark yourself against other people. So that's one of the reasons why people feel alone, because they feel like, oh my God, I'm just not where I should be. And look at everybody else. But social media, we all know that's a very carefully curated image about what people are showing you on social, right? So you shouldn't feel alone, because you're definitely not.
So one of the things that like that I love is that instantly. So I have back here. So there is the book, which I love, right? So the ultimate guide to financial resilience, right? And so here, Lynnette goes over the challenges, but also the things to do. And then on top of it, I used to be a teacher. So I love that right away, you don't have to wait for the companion guide. In it, there's goal trackers, action plans, quizzes, tests, checklists, case studies. I mean, so right away, if you're someone like me, when I read a really good book, like kind of telling me what to do, I like to have a place where I can write things in. And typically, like candidly, like my workbook came out 2 years after my book. Y'all don't have to wait. They both are out at the same time, which is amazing. If you're looking for where, Bounce Back the book, the link is right below .com. You can go ahead and cop you a copy. So
I really wanted to do that intentionally because
okay.
I wanted people, I killed myself to write these 2 books at the same time. It was a lot. But I really did want people to be able to, in real time, to learn the lessons and then to customize the advice that I was giving them in a very, bespoke way to just make it for their unique circumstances and say, oh, okay, she's telling me about how to bounce back from job loss. And she wants me to reflect on what did I really like about my job and dislike about my job? Because you know what? When I go to the next position, I'm not here for the BS. I want to get a position that really works for me. So I'm not only giving people the strategies, but I'm helping them to be able to do fill in the blank exercises, to reflect and to think, to test and quiz themselves, and to just more intimately apply the lessons and the learnings again to their very specific, their own lives. So that's why I wanted to do the workbook together in conjunction with the main book.
So if someone is, so what would they be surprised at? Like if I'm reading the Bounce Back book and you are going to give me like a piece of advice, like, one of the core pieces of advice about how to bounce back after some sort of financial setback, what tip or tool or something that you share that might make people say, really, I should do that? Is there something that would kind of shock us, directly from the Bounce Back book?
Yeah, I think right off the bat. So let me share some strategies, 5 strategies for
Get your pen out. I'm sorry, y'all. I forgot. They know I usually get on them because they know that I'm a notebook girl and I forgot. Go ahead and tell the baby to run and get your notebook because we live with a notebook and a pen. So I stay ready. So I don't know about y'all, but I stay ready. So because the Miss Lynnette Khalfani-Cox is going to be speaking with 5 strategies. Go ahead and get a notebook. I'm gonna give you 2 seconds, right? 2 seconds to go get your notebook and pen to get ready. All right, you ready? We stay ready. See, they know better. Yes.
Stay ready.
Yes, stay ready. Okay, Lynnette, go ahead. What are the 5 steps?
Okay, so in Bounce Back, I actually talk about 10 steps to build resilience. But I ain't trying to give y'all all of it tonight. I'm gonna give you 5 though. I'll give you half of it tonight. Okay. So one of the things that you should do to build your resilience and your ability to bounce back is to practice self-care.
Okay.
So just let me tell you about each one of these first, and then I want to see if everybody notices something. Okay. Another strategy that I think is super important is about creating connections in your life. Okay.
Hold on, Lynnette. Before, if you guys have not shared this video or tagged your bestie or your mama, your cousin, do you really care about them? Because we're spending all this for free. Go ahead and tag somebody and share this video so we can run the numbers up so more people can get access. Okay. Because you guys are always complaining, I need tools, I need help, I need tools. Here it is. Okay. So practice self-care, creating connections. Sorry to cut you off, but I just want to make sure that people understand I'm not playing with them.
Yes. Number 3 is learn to ask for help. Okay. That's the third way to build financial resilience. Number 4 is to establish what I call a new money game plan.
Okay.
I'll walk you through kind of what some of that is. And then number 5 is about creating a financial plan B. Okay. Now, so let's talk a little bit about what each one of these mean and kind of why. But first, I do want to ask your people who are listening here, what do you notice about these 5 things that I've told you here? Like, I'm a money coach. I'm talking to you about personal finances and how to, bounce back financially, etc. What do you notice about those? I see some people saying self-strategies, reflection.
It's like internal work, more internal work than external work.
Oh,
did I just cheat? I didn't know that. I'm just smart.
You good.
I love someone said, start with me. Yes.
You're good. So this is the thing. Like, people automatically think that, okay, help me to bounce back. Girl, I lost my job. Or I went through a divorce and he wrecked my credit. Or, my finances are tight. They automatically think that the first thing that you should do, or the dominant strategies that are going to help you to bounce back, are financial strategies. But honestly, in Bounce Back, in the book and in the workbook, out of the 10 strategies, only the last 2 have to deal with pure, like, money related. And I'm giving you the last 2, which are about creating a financial plan B and about a new money game plan for yourself. But really, the other things are what we might call the softer side, personal things that you need to do. So first of all, why you need to, work on self-care? Well, anytime that you go through any tough time in life, if you are physically, emotionally, and mentally in a place of well-being, it will promote resilience faster and in a stronger way. You will be able to bounce back. Just like when the doctors say, the person who has, a chronic condition, an illness, but if that person has a positive mindset, then they're more likely to be able to bounce back from their illness or from their chronic condition. Again, athletes, younger people who have gone through some kind of a bone fracture or injured themselves or whatever, who's going to take longer to recover? Somebody who's out of shape and who's overweight, or somebody who's been very strong because they've been, constantly lifting weights, exercising, eating right, etc. So what I'm saying to you is that overall, your total well-being matters in a huge way in terms of promoting your financial well-being. So you gotta think about the financial well-being, obviously, but that's not the first thing. Okay, so self-care absolutely matters. I mentioned also about creating connections, right? So, there was a book that I read about a year and a half ago called Who Not How. It was by an organizational psychologist, Dr. Ben Hardy. And basically he was like, if you want to 10x your life, and he wrote this with another guy, Dan Sullivan, who's a very noted coach. But he basically said, if you want to 10x your life and a whole bunch of things, and in different ways, improve your health, your relationships, your business, your income, whatever it is that you want to take to the next level, stop thinking about the how. Like, we all, the educational system in America teaches us to think, okay, what's the steps? What do I need to do? He said, forget all that. Think about the who. Think about the person that can get you to your destination. So in your case, Tiffany, you could have said, oh, I want to get on TV. Let me think about, how am I going to do that? How am I going to create a page? How am I going to approach a producer? How am I going to, write a book? How am I going to, but no, you had a who. You had Lynnette to just go, bam, let me just walk you right through the door,
No, it's true.
Feel, right? So connections, anytime you go through a setback, having true, authentic relationships in your life, it really will help you to bounce back. So if you lost a job, and if you have good relationships with your coworkers, with people outside of work, people in the industry, family members, friends, who do you think is going to get a job quicker? Based on, like, oh, I know somebody here. Let me put in a word for you. Let me send them your resume. Those connections will help you. If you've gone through a divorce and you're like, oh my God, I'm crushed because it was something I didn't want, or even if it was something I did want, you might even just have your girls, your friends, people to be able to talk to, a shoulder to lean on to help you to more quickly recover. So having those relationships and those connections for whatever you might go through, a disability, a natural disaster, etc., that matters. Tiffany, you've shared with me that, how Superman would do, Sunday dinners, and
Mhm.
and you didn't even have a clue at the time that he
Yeah.
was putting in place, community for you,
Yes.
and connections, people to be there. And those same people were the, part of your community who helped
Yeah.
to lift you up, in the wake of his passing, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so connections always matter. But guess what? A lot of us have connections. We might have a whole laundry list of people. We might know this one or this one, but we still balk at
Yeah.
asking for help, right? Again, you've taught me so much. I remember when you said when you went to Bali, that
Mhm.
part of your experience, part of what that experience was about, part of what you had to learn was, let me just be, let somebody else do for me.
Yes.
That was something that you needed to learn, right?
Yeah.
We're just go-getters, we're
Yep.
doers, right? And honestly, a lot of times we don't like to ask for help.
Yeah.
Sometimes we might see it as a sign of weakness or
Mhm.
whatever, right? And you just feel like, a lot of times what happens, and this is what I've learned for 20 plus years as a money coach, when we get into a financial jam, especially if we feel like it was something that quote unquote we caused or that we
Mm.
contributed to, we have this little, rugged individualism in America, right? We're like, I made my bed, I got to lie in it,
Mhm.
or I got myself into this, I got to get myself out.
Yeah.
No, you don't.
Yeah.
You ain't got to do it by yourself. So when I say ask for help, sometimes it's about asking for professional
Mm.
help. You might need therapy. You might need a credit counselor. You might need to have resume service if you're trying to bounce back from job loss. But you're going to need some help, some outside third party who can help you to navigate your circumstances. And there's
Yes.
absolutely nothing wrong with asking for that.
No, I
So
love it. Juliet said this thing here. She said, "There's no financial liberation without community." That's Audre Lorde. Like,
absolutely.
we
Yep,
need community for any sort of
absolutely.
freedom. I love
Yep,
that.
we absolutely need that. So, and then the other two things that I shared, I talked about having, just a financial plan B,
Mhm.
and about making sure that you not only have your kind of plan B, but that you establish what I call like a new money game plan. So, what's the financial plan B? Really, even though some of these things in life seem like they're shockers because they absolutely come out of the blue. When I lost my sister Debbie, when she passed away suddenly at age 49, total shock out of the blue.
Mm.
I know that when you lost Jarrell, a shock, it was out of the blue. It definitely wasn't anything anticipated, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So we absolutely have those things. But there are some dreaded D's. There are some setbacks and challenges that we face in life that actually are fairly predictable.
Okay.
Like we know that corporate America don't promise you no job forever, you
Mhm.
know. So you nobody said that you're gonna be getting a golden ring and a golden watch and be at that job until here to eternity. We know that it doesn't have to be a disaster that's like, oh my gosh, my whole house got blown away from a tornado or something. It might be, oh, my car has a flat tire, or some kind of a mechanical problem. Well, you know what? Every 3,000 miles, you need to be changing that oil. You need to be tending to that vehicle. You need to be making sure that you're doing the routine maintenance to prevent something from becoming more of a disaster, right?
Mhm.
So sometimes we actually we can predict all of these things. At the end of the day, really, they're transitions.
Mm.
They're like us moving from one phase to another. And once you start to look at them as transitions, then you can say, there's a planning phase for this transition, right?
Mhm.
There's kind of that middle phase when you're in the middle of it, when you're just like, oh my God, I don't even know what to do. I'm floundering here. And then there's that last phase where you're coming out of it, and there's kind of a new beginning. So you absolutely need to have a plan B, where you're
Okay.
asking yourself, you're assessing your own risk scenarios, and you're asking yourself, what if?
Mm.
What if I lost my job? What if I got divorced from my partner, or we broke up and now, two incomes became one? What if I live in a flood zone and I got hit? I live in the Houston area, and I know y'all remember Hurricane Harvey. I wasn't here at the time, but if you're in Southern California, earthquake, it's very earthquake prone. I was raised in Los Angeles. If you're in Florida, then it's flooding out there and hurricanes all the time, right? So you need to assess your risk and then start taking the actions to deal with those and to address those. Sometimes you might address your risk with insurance to be able to, shore up yourself financially. Other times you might just think about, let me just start saving and put a little nest egg to the side, just a little by little, to deal with that emergency, right? Other times you just might have a game plan where you're saying, okay, you know what? If I did lose my job, what would I do? Like, oh, I wouldn't be able to afford my rent or my mortgage. So my plan might be, I'm gonna ask my sister to come live with me, or I'm gonna go live with my cousin, or I'm gonna get a roommate or whatever. But you need to be thinking in advance about those what if scenarios. And I ain't trying to be, like negative Nelly, like, oh my God, say like all the sky is falling. No, I'm just telling you that realistically, all of us are going to go through, some of these setbacks and challenges.
No, this is great. So if you're just joining us or just jumping in, I'm talking to the Lynnette Khalfani-Cox. She's got this new book called Bounce Back that you can purchase at bouncebackthebook.com. It's available wherever books are sold. It's a book, and she has a separate, so the book is behind me, and a additional companion guide workbook to go along with it. She was just going over one. Lynnette went over kind of like the 10 Ds, including divorce and death and downsizing, that people these are the challenges that many of us will face. Lynnette shared that, at least once a year, we're going to face one of these Ds, that is going to make financial life a little bit more difficult. And Lynnette just shared, of the 10 ways to navigate these Ds, she just shared 5 of them. 1, practice self-care. 2, creating connections. 3, learn to ask for help. 4, establish a new money plan. And then 5, create a financial plan. What is that what it said?
Financial plan
But
B.
B, plan 5. I can't read my handwriting. I'm like, child, look at my handwriting. B.
And
Because
the
we
new and the
go ahead.
new money game plan, because I didn't touch upon that, extensively. Just the new money game plan boils down to, you got to do something different. You got to switch it up. Like if you go through a divorce, the tendency is, like, let's say for us as women, the tendency is, oh my God, I want to keep the house, and my kids were raised here, or I want to hang on to this. Well, can you afford the house? Is the house just going to be like a financial, ball and chain around your neck? If you lost a job, are you going to keep spending at the exact same level? People try to maintain the exact same lifestyle, spending habits and behaviors that they did before they suffered one of those dreaded Ds. And you can't do that. If you want to bounce back more quickly, you have to be willing to create a new financial game plan, a new money game plan that is, commensurate with your situation right now. It's not saying that you got to do this forever. Like, okay, I'm gonna be eating top ramen and rice and beans or something. You might have a month or two to do that, but it may not even require all of that. But the point is, you have to say, what do I need to switch up? What do I need to change? Because my circumstances have changed. I can't keep doing the same thing,
And
it's not
I
gonna
see
work.
Tarsha McKay. First of all, I want to say, I mean, as a widow, I understand. She said, as a new widow, it's hard to ask for help when your help was your spouse. And I totally understand that. But I promise you, there are people who are around you who are wanting to do something, but they don't know what to do, because, the top 3 losses are, spouse, parent, child. And it's so devastating.
Yeah.
And earth shaking. Of course, all losses are losses, but like studies have shown, like those are the ones that for many people, it just
Shakes the
shakes you
family.
to a point. Yes, the
Yeah.
foundation of who you are.
Yeah.
Even if you're 80 years old and you've been together since you were 70, and you're like, we know that, Pop is 90 years old, but that's why you see so many elderly people, 90 and 95, they pass within months of each other because it's just too much. And so
Yeah.
I say that from a fellow widow, that I had to learn that there are people who wanted to help. Tarsha, I can almost guarantee that there are people who want to help, but it's so hard because you're not really sure what to ask for. And it could be something simple, like, can they bring food over? Can they just sit with you? A lot of my friends just said, like, I'm just going to call you. You could cry on the phone with me. It's not even financial help that you have to necessarily ask for. Sometimes to just hold space for me, to just sit on the couch as I sit on the couch. Um, so you shouldn't have to worry about food. You shouldn't have to, I don't know if you have children, but yeah, I just, maybe you have one spokesperson, because I can know it could be very overwhelming. I mean, I got so many texts, so many phone calls, so I could not manage it all. So I had like my sister Tracy, who was staying with me. She became the spokesperson, like, this is what I need. And then she would let everybody else know, because it was just, although I look back at it now and I'm so grateful for all the love that was pouring in, I just was overwhelmed with my own grief emotions to be able to process it. So if you can find one person to kind of help you navigate the space, but people do want to help. So I just, my heart goes out to you. So yeah, as a widow, Erica, yes, it is. No one tells us that, like, you tell what you're told is you get married, you find a good partner, and when you're 90 years old, then that's what it looks like. Not when you're 41. So bouncing back is never. It's like, to Lynnette's point, it's something that as adults we have to just understand that we're going to struggle in some way financially at some point in time, whatever that looks like. For some people, I won't say struggle, there's going to be some financial challenge. It could be that you are uber wealthy and you have kids that don't want to do nothing. That's a financial challenge. What does that look like? You know what I mean? It could be that maybe you are uber wealthy and when you were not so rich, you got married, and now you don't want to be married anymore and you don't have a prenup. Now that's a conundrum as well. Ask Mr. Bezos. And so there are none of us are going to escape some sort of financial challenge. It is just the nature of being an adult. And so navigating, how do you bounce back from these challenges? I think one, I hope you can acknowledge that you can bounce back, you know? And so this is your bounce back season. If you believe that, type bounce back in the comments. Because if you don't first acknowledge that I can bounce back, then nothing that we said here today is gonna permeate. You can bounce back,
And and again, I should share with your audience. That's why the first two chapters of Bounce Back, it's all mental and emotional and self-care. It's
Yeah.
all about trying to build people up to know that you can build your resilience, you can have grit, you can practice self-care through a whole bunch of means. It might be anything from journaling to having self-compassion. Because again, like I said, a lot of us have, guilt, shame, blame, a whole bunch of, sort of negative emotions around our money issues. But, just to say one other thing about the loss of a spouse in particular, because yes, of course it's devastating. And you highlighted something that is very poignant and accurate. They say that the top three losses are a spouse, a parent, and a child.
Mm-hmm.
So when I lost my sister Debbie, I went to grief counseling twice. So I went to grief counseling through my church because I was just, toe up from the floor. I was like, why, this is not right. This is not fair. Why her? She was 49. It was just, I just was devastated.
Yeah.
And then later I went to counseling again not through my church, but just separate counseling. And I learned so much in grief counseling.
Mm-hmm.
I remember this one gentleman, his mom had passed. And when I tell you, every time I would see him, he had me bawling. I would just cry because he was so impacted. He was so devastated at the loss of his mother, But what I wanted to share is that and of course, I'm telling people this in bounce back, so you'll see the effects of this. One of the things I learned in grief counseling is that it's not just the loss of the person, it's what psychologists and experts call ancillary losses.
Mhm.
So those ancillary losses happen across the spectrum. So it could be something like, of course, you're sad that the person is no longer there and in your life and you can't
Mhm.
talk to them and be with them. But ancillary losses are a whole set of other expectations and things that you had that are no longer going to be fulfilled. So for
Yeah.
a spouse, you were like, oh my God, we're gonna grow old together. When we
Mhm.
our kids gonna do this, we're gonna now all of that is shattered, right?
Yeah.
In my case with my sister Debbie, one of the ancillary losses that my family suffered was social. So my
Yes.
sister was the person who will put together the, Thanksgiving and Christmas. She was a very social party type of person and would bring together everybody. And then it was just like, and because she passed on December 30th, 2014, needless to say,
Mhm.
nobody was in a celebratory mood. And imagine that my mom's birthday is December 31st.
Mm.
Son's birthday is December 31st.
Okay.
Earl's father's birthday was January 1st,
That's her husband, for those who asking. Yeah.
and Earl's birthday is January 11th. So when that happened, obviously nobody was in a happy or celebrating mood.
Yeah.
So those ancillary losses can be emotional,
Yes.
physical, it can be companionship, it can be just, oh, this is the person that I did this certain thing with,
Mhm.
you know? And so you have to, be able to understand and process what those are, and work through it. You can write
Yeah.
down what your losses were, etc. But I think sometimes people need help naming them and just
Yes.
understanding and identifying them because it's very, very real.
Yeah. Sometimes we don't realize. I didn't know that. Like, I was having a heart. Gerald passed away in November 2 years ago, and in November, I don't know what possessed me, but my book Made Whole came out. Lynnette, I was like, "Who's marketing?" I didn't want to do no. I remember my publicist was like, "Oh, we have all these things lined up." I said, "I don't want to do all that." It felt full. And I didn't know at the time that I was. I mean, I just thought I'm always grieving him. It's not what's the difference? November, January, June. The grief is the grief. I did not know that grief could turn it up during those seasons. I didn't know that's what I was feeling. I just thought, I don't want to do this. I'm tired. That's what I felt. All I want to do is sleep. And I said, I don't want to do any press. I don't want to do any marketing. I'm tired. I'm tired. I just felt exhausted. And it wasn't until I talked to my therapist about it. And she said, well, Tiffany, no wonder. This is the month that Jarrell passed away. And isn't Christmas his favorite holiday? And I was like, what does that have to do with anything? Like, I never not miss him. She's like, yes, but it's like the heat turns up.
It
Yeah, I
intensifies.
didn't know that. And I
Yeah.
was like, and it's only till now that January that I'm starting to level out to my normal level of grief, which allows me to still navigate life. I couldn't even navigate. Honestly, Linda, it had me think I want to quit Budgetnista. I remember telling my team, I don't know if I want to do this anymore.
Mhm.
Honestly. I was
Yeah.
like, I don't know if I want to be in business anymore. I think I want to wrap it up. And I believed it and it felt so real. But I didn't realize that it was just intensified. So knowing that, just like with financial loss, knowing that at some point we're going to be faced with that. I now know once November hits, I need to be mindful of how I navigate because it's likely to come up again. So it's the same thing with your finances that as adults, Lynette just explained, like the 10 D's from divorce to death to downsizing to discrimination to debt, all these things at some point annually, one of these things is going to hit your pocket. And so knowing that, preparing to say, I don't know what it is, but it might be something. And so that's why you're going to get these tools and bounce back about how to be prepared for the thing that you're not prepared for, if that makes sense?
Mhm. For
Yeah.
sure.
Oh, look at
And
this Facebook user. She said, after my divorce, I got more intentional about
estate
um
planning.
yeah, estate planning and more open discussion with my children on family dynamics and what our future can look like. You see, sometimes, so my therapist, Lynette, will call that the gifts of grief. because there's grief after divorce too. So
Mhm.
you lost, like, like this partnership, whether you wanted to leave or not or whatever. Still, there's grief and divorce, even if you wanted to leave. But as a result, look what it brought forward, which is I've got to get better at estate planning. I got to make sure that my kids are okay. So even in grief and loss, this is what I'm hearing from Bounce Back, right? That your book, that like, even though we're all going to experience one of these D's, that there is a blessing in those things, because it's like, it allows us to shore up our financial plan, and so we are better for the next thing that might come our way. Would that be accurate?
That is accurate. And it's not only it allows you to shore up your financial plan, it allows you to shore up your life. That's the bigger thing. So the fact that your therapist called it the gift of grief, this aligns to me very much so. And I said I was going to share with your audience about so-called transition truths, right?
Okay.
So there's a institute called the Institute for Certified Financial Transitionists. Like literally people get a designation in this. One of them I interviewed, a friend of mine, Stephanie Genkin. But there's 6 transition truths. Again, I'm going to just share a couple of them. I'll share 3 of them with you. One is that, and remember, let me just first say, as I'm watching the time here, let me just first say that one of the things that I explain in Bounce Back is the difference between change and transition. So change is something that's external, that happens to you, and it's often abrupt. So it's like, bam, you walked into the office and they said, sorry, we're eliminating your department, or your job is gone. Or, oh, all of a sudden I lost a spouse, somebody passed away. Or a hurricane hit and now my house is blown over or whatever. So that's a change that you have to deal with. It's external. Transition is internal. And transition is the work that you do on yourself to process the change. So the change can be quick and speedy. It can be quick, or it might be like a month or 2, a year, even if it's like a divorce, for example. But transition takes many months, if not many years. So part of what we have to understand is when you're going through these things, especially very heavy ones like a divorce, loss of a loved one, and so forth, even job loss, because that hits people hard. Their identity is impacted, right? The good news is that as you're going through those transitions, like I mentioned before, like the early part, sometimes you can plan for it, sometimes you can't, but it's just like a early part of that transition. Sometimes when you're just right in the thick of it, right? Like let's say you got downsized, right? Or you lost a job, and now you're struggling because you're like, my identity was wrapped up in being vice president of this company, or being a lawyer, or being a teacher or a nurse, or whatever it is your practice was, right? So one transition truth is that every transition brings a new identity. So whatever
write that down.
Whatever the transition was, it's going to be a new you. The new you is the widow Tiffany. That's one part of it. The new me is a person who's lost a sister, right? The new me is the person who's been through debt, the person who's been through downsizing, right? Person who's been through discrimination. And so now I'm not the same as I was before.
Yes, not even a little bit.
Not even a little bit. So that's one of the transition truths that people need to know and to accept. Another one, which is actually, I hope, something good that people can kind of look forward to, because it aligns with your therapist telling you about the gifts of grief. And it's that every transition is an ending and also a new beginning. So yes, the end is I lost my job, and it's tough. and it hurts, and you feel like, why me? And on and on and on, right? When I lost my job, I was a Wall Street Journal reporter for CNBC. I was making a very nice 6-figure income, and I was like, I thought I had a contract. I was doing great. I had performance appraisals that were stellar. I was, promoted all the time. I got bonuses, but nevertheless, I was in a industry, the media world at the time, where the media, advertising was down, and you hear nowadays it's the same thing going on, right? Offset a whole bunch of them that are happening. So I recognize that the ending of me as the W-2 employee for being a CNBC reporter meant a new beginning for me as an entrepreneur, right? So I fought it at first. I ain't gonna even lie. Okay, I was like, this is not right. This is not fair. I was good. How come why am I, among these 200 people getting fired? So, but what I had to accept though was that there was a beginning, but there was an ending, but there was also a beginning. So in my case, the beginning was entrepreneurship. And man, I tell you, I'm so much happier now. The last 20 years I've done way better for myself, as an entrepreneur. So that's another one of the transition truths. And then another one I wanted to highlight is about, it's really just about acceptance, which is that every transition involves letting go. So again, sometimes you might have to let go of dreams, identity, anger, unresolved feelings or thoughts. But there's some things that have to be let go in order to go to that new normal, whatever the new normal is going to look like for you. That transition has to occur where you have to have some acceptance around it. It takes, I ain't gonna lie, it takes a minute to get there. But those are 3 transition truths that I hope will actually put people, on the road to thinking like, okay, you know what? When I get this down, it is going to help me to bounce back. I am going to be stronger and better. I'm going to be a more resilient me.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Lynnette, thank you so much for coming on today. You have been just a blessing that keeps on giving. See, y'all, I must love y'all because I don't like to share like that, but I got to share one of my favorite people in the world and my favorite person in the financial space, Lynnette.
Can I share one last, and I promise you I'm going to make this 30 seconds. Yes. Because we teased and said discrimination, and I know folks on LinkedIn and people who have jobs. Unfortunately, job discrimination, a whole host of discrimination occurs against people of color, women, pay gap, LGBTQ status. A whole bunch of people get discriminated against. What do? First, you call it out. You name the BS. You don't sweep it under the rug. You don't act like, oh, maybe I was just missing. No, call it out. Demand change. Advocate for yourself, enlist your allies, and also see about what can be done systemically or structurally or from a policy standpoint to address the issues. So I just want to very quickly, I know that was very tight, but if you've experienced discrimination, and in particular discrimination on the job, Minda Harts talks about this. I quoted her in Bounce Back. She wrote the memo. And so, but there's so much that people have to deal with, whether it's banking while Black or whether it's housing discrimination. I had my house in New Jersey. I had a white appraiser came and evaluated my house $100,000 less. And I was like, absolutely not. I called out the BS. We did a second appraisal. Second one came back in $100,000 higher, like it should have been. But you can't just, stand there and take it or just make nice and whatnot. When you are discriminated against, you absolutely must speak up about it.
Thank you. I think that's going to really help someone. Yeah. And so, yes, we want to I like to give people their flowers while they're here. I want you to run those comments up. Thank you so much, Lynnette. If
You're
you, oh,
welcome.
real quick, Lynnette, can you say that? Because some people are asking, what are the 5 Ds again? So for those of us who are struggling and having financial challenges, these are the Ds that the Bounce Back book covers and how to recover. So what are those 10 Ds again? I'm sorry, the 10 Ds?
Downsizing from a job,
Mhm.
divorce, death of a loved one, disability, disease, debt, damaged credit. And I know some people got bad credit out there. Um, uh, Natural disasters, dollar deficits, meaning your cash flow is not good, and then discrimination. Those are the 10.
Yes.
Those are the
So those
10.
are the 10 Ds covered in the Bounce Back workbook and the book. Let me bring it on over here. Bring it on down here.
You
If you're wondering where to go ahead and get it, go to bouncebackthebook.com. It'll take you directly to a link to purchase it, and you should be able to see there too. You'll be able to find, because I think it takes you to Amazon, at least right now. You'll be able to see the workbook. So if it was me, so Lynnette, is there an audio version of the Bounce Back book
no
yet?
audio just yet. Just
Okay.
just the book, the main book, Bounce Back: The Ultimate Guide to Financial Resilience, and the
Okay.
Bounce Back Workbook.
So yes, go ahead and get that. And because this is the year that we are going to bounce back. 2023 was
Right.
a hard year, but this is 2024 is our redemption year. We're bouncing back this year, and bouncebackthebook.com. You will be able to join us in that redemption. Thank you again so much, Lynette. You are always the best.
Thank
Thank you.
you. I appreciate you so much. I mean, you just opened your heart and your audience to me, and it's not lost on me at all because I know you have a loyal following, and just I appreciate you sharing.
No, you're welcome. All
Yeah.
right, y'all. She said 2023 sucks. My